Hello everyone, this is Pendy.
And this is Paul, also known as EastX Twitch.
EastX, I am the ghost of Dragon Warriors past. Oh.
Ah, a ghost! Wait, shouldn't you be a Dragon Quest ghost and not a Dragon Warrior ghost? You sound suspiciously like Pendy.
No, I know of no Pendy, though I'm sure he's a great guy. I am from the past, where in North America, Dragon Quest had to be Dragon Warrior for copyright reasons.
Oh, that's scary. I hope you aren't here to haunt our show.
I am. Not only will I haunt you with Dragon Warrior terms, but you must also suffer playing the original Japanese Dragon Quest with the password save.
Oh no, that's 20 characters long. That's even longer than the Mega Man password system. So you're an evil ghost, you fiend.
Fun fact, the Dragon Quest password was called the Spell of Restoration and was arranged in a haiku pattern.
Wow, an informative ghost as well.
I do what I can. Oh.
Well, if we're using Dragon Warrior terms too, take this, Hurt More!
Whoa!
Alright, now that I've defeated that pesky ghost, I'll welcome everyone to Alltrades DQ Media Abbey, a Slime-Time podcast spin-off where we review various Dragon Quest media, including manga and anime.
We are currently reviewing a Dragon Quest-inspired parody show called The Brave Yoshihiko and the Dragon Quest X tie-in manga, Rooming with a Gamer Gal. We'll start with Yoshihiko first. We gotta seal those monsters away.
In Season 2, Episode 4, after the heroes help a bandit with his provisional license training, the Buddha appears and directs them to a small town with an evil key. There, the village chief agrees to give them the key in exchange for getting rid of the boss of the ghosts that have been haunting the town. After a ghost-filled night at an abandoned home, the heroes find the lair of the head ghost. It turns out that this head ghost is the former village chief, now deceased. He was killed in his sleep by the current village chief, the scoundrel. The other ghosts are just actors helping keep the village in line, so the new chief can justify charging higher taxes by pretending to offer protection from the ghosts. The heroes confront the chief with the Mirror of Ru, revealing the evil spirit within him. When Yoshihiko defeats that bad spirit, it leaves the chief's body and escapes into the key, which then explodes.
Oh no, no!
I like the funny little details in this show sometimes. A good example in this episode is when Meilu uses his stick to figure out which direction they should go before being confronted by the bandit. Just like kind of sticks it up and let us fall and like, oh, guess we're going this way now. Just fun little details like that I love. And our heroes talking to the Buddha in this episode was a lot of fun. Even though I don't know who the Buddha might be referencing, I still enjoy his performance. Anyway, the bandit getting his license in the beginning of this episode really cracked me up. Or did it crack-hoop me up? Anyways, I love how similar it is to a driving assessment test to get a driver's license. This is definitely one of my favorite bandit confrontations in the show. Now, I wonder if the village of Torodan is a reference to Castle Trodane from Dragon Quest VIII. In this season, they like to use Dragon Quest names that are just a little bit off, like the Mirror of Ru or Ortoga. Castle Trodane in Dragon Quest VIII isn't necessarily haunted, but it's certainly cursed and gives off a similar vibe. There are a plethora of famous Japanese ghost references here, such as the little boy from The Grudge and the girl coming out of the well from The Ring. I didn't get all the references, but it was fun to see our heroes get scared by different ghosts and how they cope with them in mostly cowardly ways. Of course, they also have some Dragon Quest ghosts show up in battle as well. I love how Murasaki makes fun of one of the ghosts' cute Toriyama-style appearance, which causes the ghost to get mad and attack her. Later on, the team is in an abandoned house, and they use rock, paper, scissors, or Rochambeau as they put it in the episode, to figure out who has to go outside and get more firewood. I've learned that's very popular in Japan to do, maybe even more popular than in the West. It reminded me of the first Dragon Quest Monsters game that had the muddy hands that would challenge you to rock, paper, scissors. And sometimes they would use other monster names like Bomb, Babble, Crab instead. That part of the game really amused me. If I remember right, I believe the Muddy Hands and Dragon Quest Treasures will play that against each other too once you collect more than one type at your base. It's one of the fun little background animations that you can see your monsters do at your base. When they get to the outside of the hut of the head ghost, you can tell they must have had a lot of fun coming up with the ice-themed puns and wordplay. That was fun to see. Overall, I'm kind of meh on the last ghost. I don't think his whole shtick about being a pushover was that funny. However, it is fun to see them eventually use the Mirror of Rue to expose the evil possession of the village chief. I also have to note the low-budget gags in this episode are great, whether it's the journal that is clearly written in a modern-day notebook or the key that comes from a famous Japanese lock and security company. After the episode was done, I enjoyed the little ad for the show's mobile site, especially with Melub and Yoshihiko hamming it up in the background. I wonder if they kept those in the DVD Blu-ray releases of the show. It would be a shame if those weren't in there too. Some of them are very amusing. Overall, not a great episode for me, but still pretty entertaining.
I think it's a great episode. But before we get to that, this episode is introduced by a Cyclops, a monster that has the same name in both English and Japanese. This blue, one-eyed, and one-horned monster carries a big club. It was first introduced in Dragon Quest II. Anyway, what I love about this episode is the spooky atmosphere. Yes, the show's a comedy, but this episode takes place mostly at night and has a creepier mood than usual. The ghosts are mostly cool too. I love the Grudge and Ringu ones, and also the fourth ghost, who is just a cute little girl. I'm not sure, but I think her non-scary appearance is part of the joke. The only ghost I didn't care for is the white masked one. He just looks cheap, and if he's from a movie, I don't know it. Anyway, the Grudge boy here is the funniest one. He hides behind Yoshihiko, and every time Yoshihiko looks, he just hides away a little bit. It's super silly.
Oh yeah, I love that joke. And Yoshihiko started to look, and Danjo's like, I know you saw him that time. He's like, no, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Freaking out.
Yes, delightful. I also love that we get to see a trio of Dragon Quest ghosts as well. It would be a shame if they'd been left out. Ghosts first appeared in the very first Dragon Quest, or Dragon Warrior as somebody referred to it, and they have the same name in both English and Japanese. They're orange floating spooks with drooping tongues and pointy purple hats. They look great in live action too. That said, they're barely in the episode. Perhaps they'll turn up again in a future one. Like you, Penny, I really enjoyed the trainee bandit who appears early in the story. Yoshihiko is so patient with him, which totally fits Yoshihiko's character. The other party members just look on in bemusement and boredom while the trainee tries different bandit moves, and Murasaki even stabs him in the back with her prop knife. That's my favorite part of the encounter. The Great Buddha's weird way of talking in this episode was possibly the funniest that he has ever been in the show. It's a simple joke, but it's just so silly. And Penny, since you mentioned Toradon and Trodane villages, I can shed some light on the translation. Trodane village from Dragon Quest VIII is called Toraden in Japan.
Oh, now it makes sense. Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yes, there you go, because in the show it's Toradon.
Yeah.
They changed one character in the name, De to Da. And yeah, that's got to be a deliberate reference. You mentioned Rochambeau earlier, which is what the translators called rock, paper, scissors. Rochambeau makes me think of the South Park version of Rochambeau. Which is
Rochambeau! Ah, my nuts!
Exactly. I kick you as hard as I can in the nuts, and you kick me as hard as you can. Love it. But actually, rock, paper, scissors in Japan is called Jonken, and that's what they're saying. Finally, I actually like the nice old man ghost. He was a nice guy in real life, so it makes sense that he's still nice in death. The perfunctory spooking that he does when the heroes get there is decently funny. I also appreciate the irony of the elder ghost being kind and a victim of the person who asked for help from him. This is another episode whose story reminds me of visiting the interesting towns of Dragon Quest, and that's always a good thing.
I can't argue with you there. Next is Season 2, Episode 5. After a well-intentioned fight, our heroes get some guidance from the Buddha to check out Sakura Village, overflowing with evil energy. Our heroes find out the town has a dangerous shaman that is brainwashing and feeding people to a monster. The town seems to be stuck in a Japanese school drama in which the teachers and authority figures are brainwashing everyone. One by one, our heroes seem to be put in the trance to go along with the drama happening in the town, except for Danjo. Our heroes volunteer to feed themselves to the monster because of the brainwashing, but then Danjo gets on the school's PA system and tries to break them out of their trance. Luckily, Yoshihiko is only pretending to be brainwashed, and they are able to save Murasaki and Meiru. After defeating the head schoolmaster Kampachi-sensei, they confront the monster, and Yoshihiko slays it. The key was not what they were looking for, so our heroes move on.
This episode is introduced by an admirer, a green version version of the Mudraker monster. This monster first appeared in Dragon Quest V, where it was purple. The green version, going by the same name, debuted in Dragon Quest VII. Admirer is a slimy little guy with stubby arms and black and red eyes. In Japan, this monster is called Jellyman, which is a much better name. Admirer is apparently a play on the word mire, but just about nobody is ever going to get that joke. Why must they be called that? Now, unlike Pendy the Pendiferous, I really dig this episode. I haven't watched any Japanese teacher dramas, but I'm aware of their existence. If you watch a lot of anime and live-action Japanese shows, you'll surely have been exposed to hints of the tropes that the show is parodying here. As soon as the heroes started describing the personalities of the school staff in ridiculous detail, I was hooked. Now, Konpachi Sensei has a ridiculous hairstyle, or maybe wig, that is long and parted down the middle. The actor is credited as Hirohito Hori on IMDb, but the Brave Yoshihiko information there is a little unreliable, so we can't count on that actually being the actor's name. In any case, I find the actor's performance to be extremely funny. He's being very earnest and yet ridiculous at the same time. He speaks in teaching cliches and silly acronyms, and he flicks his goofy hair back all the time. While I couldn't nail down the actor for sure, I did discover that Konpachi Sensei is a parody of Kinpachi Sensei, the main character of a show called Mr. Kinpachi in Class 3B. It ran from 1979 to 2011, but only 8 seasons were produced. Some of them were just made years apart. Kind of reminds me of the new season of Daredevil being made like 5 years after the previous season. Something like that. Yeah. Photos of Kinpachi Sensei reveal that he has hair parted down the middle, like the Yoshihiko version. Konpachi Sensei's hair just looks much sillier, which makes sense since they're poking fun at the original character. Some of it might be because I'm a teacher, but all the jokes hit home for me in this one. My wife, who's also a teacher, liked the previous episode better, the spooky one, but I'd have a hard time choosing between them. They're both fantastic in my opinion.
Yeah, as far as jokes are concerned, the show goes back to the well with a well monster to start the show. It's so goofy and ridiculous that I love it. They have done Dragon Quest well humor before, but this is the first time they've parodied actual well monsters specifically, and it's great. Overall, I just wasn't a big fan of this episode. Most of it is a parody of Japanese school dramas that I'm not really familiar with, so the humor fell flat with me. I mean, and I have seen school drama tropes in anime, but mostly it has to do with, usually they'll have a council, that they'll have a high school council of students, and all the drama will come from that instead of the teachers that I've seen in the past anyway. So that's what I'm more familiar with. They have like an evil council of students, and I'd be like, I know what you're doing, but it was more teacher-based stuff. I did recognize...
I just called you a noob.
Oh, noob. Gotcha. I did recognize a few tropes that were fun, though. For example, there's the hair color trope of Maylube. I remember seeing that done in Demon Slayer, among other anime. People in Japan would often get made fun of or harassed, especially in school, if they weren't following the status quo of a traditional look. The opening bit with the Buddha is fun, too. They give him so much flack for being humorous or trying to be humorous all the time, but here he's acting mostly normal, and they tease him for not being goofy. He just can't win. One of the few Dragon Quest references they have here is doing the bit again where they go into a place and start breaking everything. They have done this before, but here the owner calls them out for doing it, and I loved it. It reminded me of Dragon Quest XI where they do this. If you start breaking stuff in a house somewhere, I think it's Heliodor, the owner will get mad at you for doing it. You never see that in the game up until that point, which is a hilarious joke. Here we get another huge animated boss monster. I'm guessing it's supposed to be a variation of Dragon Quest II's Merlusk, or Sea Slug, as some of us older folks would know it as.
I don't think the cartoon monster looks much like a Merlusk, but I want to point out that in Japan, Merlusks are called by the Japanese word for sea slug, and sea slug is a way better name than Merlusk. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. That's a weird translation choice, because the old translation choice was sea slug, and then they changed it to Merlusk. If that's what a Merlusk means, then why even bother to go with a more, what do you call it? A name that people wouldn't be familiar with. But yeah, I'm probably grasping at straws here. I was hoping boss monsters in the season would be more Dragon Quest-like, and that last boss monster gave me hope, since it seemed to be designed after a tree face.
Yeah, and there could be a little bit of inspiration. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Now we move on to Rooming with a Gamer Gal, the Dragon Quest X themed manga. And we start with Server 48, on a new quest. This installment begins with Satsuki dreaming of what his married life with Miyako would be like. Satsuki goes to work while Miyako stays home, and nearby nearby doing chores. They also take time to relax and play games together. When Satsuki wakes up, he realizes that he needs to do a lot of wedding planning and get some advice. At work, he gets that planning advice from his boss and fellow coworker. The advice includes getting permission from both sets of parents, getting rings, and planning the honeymoon. When our protagonist gets home and starts researching on the internet, he realizes that he needs to raise a lot of money to be able to get married at all.
I was a little bored by this chapter as Sasaki dreams about his potential married life with Miyako and gets advice about marriage plans at work. I knew right away it was a dream as Miyako seemed way too domesticated. I don't see her as the kind of girl to just give up on her dreams of owning a nail salon just to do chores around the house. That's why I wasn't shocked by the spicy scenes of them kissing. I knew it was fake already. I do relate with Sasaki about how expensive getting married can be, of course, even if it's low key. I did find it interesting that they basically insisted both sets of parents have to approve of the marriage. I wonder what they would do if any of them objected. I imagine in Japan it might be a bigger deal than in the US because family relations tend to be more emphasized in Japan since it's way more of a collective society. Though still in the US, it is traditional to get permission of the parents to be able to get married no matter what the situation is. You ask for their hand in marriage. But this seems to indicate that it's more of a stronger and bigger deal in Japan than it is in the US now.
I knew this chapter was a dream right away as well, mainly because the story wouldn't jump ahead so far in time as to skip the protagonist's wedding. That's too important an event to skip over. I don't mind seeing Satsuki's married life fantasy though. It's a nice life, even if Miyako doesn't actually want to be a housewife, as you pointed out. Satsuki's new coworkers are nice and supportive of his marriage plans. It's a shame that Satsuki still feels insecure enough to say that Miyako might break up with him before they get married. But it will probably take him years to conquer the negative thoughts he's lived with for most of his life. When Satsuki does a web search, he uses the Google search engine with a Q instead of the second G. That's an off-brand Google if I've ever heard one. Now, if Gamer Gal was a TV show, this chapter would be a filler episode. It's skippable since very little happens in it, but I don't mind a little filler as long as it doesn't happen too often.
Boo! I don't like filler. Boo! Most of the time. That's a good way to put it. I can see that. Next is Server 49. Welcome! Heaven Slime Kansai. We start with Sasaki reflecting on his fear of barbecue get-togethers and how he avoided one with Miyako in the past. It's then revealed that he's attending a big barbecue at that moment. The Kansai Heaven Slime team members are having a welcoming party for Sasaki in the form of a barbecue get-together. We then flash forward to Moist discussing the plans with Sasaki. Moist is now Sasaki's real-life friend who, along with other Kansai Heaven Slime members, helped Sasaki get situated when he first moved to the region. Sasaki and Moist are even neighbors, thanks to Moist helping our protagonist find a place to live. We then flash forward to the barbecue festivities. We see all the people from the Kansai Heaven Slime crew who have shown up and various conversations they have with Sasaki. While there, Sasaki thinks about his marriage quest and worries about all the details. He overhears that Sasamiya, another Heaven Slime member, is getting married soon. The couple is doing a small ceremony in real life, but is also planning a big Heaven Slime wedding in Estoltia in Dragon Quest X. Sasaki and Miyako talk about this later and are excited to participate. Sasaki also realizes that working together with Miyako on their own wedding makes the whole situation a lot less stressful.
This chapter features the return of Moist, a member of the Heaven Slime Guild. Moist seems to be very helpful and friendly, just the kind of real-life friend that Sasaki needs. Even though he's named Moist, he's not particularly moist. Like, Satsuki often looks more moist than this guy because he sweats when he's nervous. Should Satsuki have been called Moist instead of Pow? I don't know. Maybe moisture is really important to Moist. Perhaps he really is the most... You're making me laugh. Okay. Perhaps he really is the most moist out of the two of them. The author and artist of the manga must be super pleased that Goro's outfit appears in the actual game of Dragon Quest X. I wonder if players can get Moist's outfit or Pouchon's. It would be so cool to play as Moist.
I hate you.
Another thing that I'd like to know about this chapter and the series in general is how closely the Heaven Slime Guild members are based on actual players that the author knows. He often provides realistic little details like how one particular member couldn't make it to the party because of work. Could Moist possibly be based on a real player? Most of us would love to appear in a manga like Moist does.
First off, I thought it was really cute that the opening panel announces a collaboration with the manga on getting clothing sets that Pao has worn in the manga in the past, as you mentioned as well. I wonder if you can still go acquire that today. That would be cool. Secondly, you know how sometimes certain words can make you feel uncomfortable? Like with many people, moist is one of those words that does it for me, as you
What?
might have guessed already.
I've never heard of this.
It's crazy. I swear this manga is trolling me by getting me to read and say moist so much. Moist, seems like a really good friend and neighbor for Sasuke, though. It's fun to see him forming friendships where he lives now. Unlike the last server, I like this wedding planning theme story a lot more. I think it's because the author does a good job of blending that in with the Kansai Heaven Slime barbecue. It's fun to see all the Heaven Slime members come together to welcome Sasuke in real life. I also love seeing that they convinced Sasuke to take on the Dragon Quest X Dark King Slime boss as well. The Dark King Slime first appeared in Dragon Quest Monsters Caravan Heart, and if you've played Dragon Quest Monsters 3 Dark Prince like I have, you'll remember he appeared in that game too. Finally, I'm looking forward to seeing the Heaven Slime wedding of one of the other members. I hope Sasuke and Miyako do this as well for their wedding plans. As someone in the comments of this manga said, this server has wholesome vibes all around.
Indeed it does. And next we have Server 50. Lots to prepare for. We begin with Satsuki and Miyako having a discussion while playing Dragon Quest X. When Satsuki notices that fellow Heaven Slime member Nui is traveling to a lot of places all over Estoltia. He meets up with Nui in-game, finds out that Nui is doing the priest vocation quest in the game in order to prepare to officiate Sasamaya's wedding. Satsuki also goes to the Heaven Slime team headquarters to see how the wedding decorations are going. This makes him reflect on how much real-life wedding planning he still needs to do with Miyako. They discuss their plans for meeting each other's parents, then they move on to a discussion of whether or not to have a formal wedding ceremony and what their honeymoon plans will be. The two decide that they need to go to Awaji Island to experience the Dragon Quest Island amusement park, visit Yuji Hori's hometown to see his Dragon Quest statue, and to go somewhere overseas.
This is basically the third server in a trio of wedding planning chapters for Sasuke and Miyako. I also enjoyed this one as their discussion of a Dragon Quest themed honeymoon is very interesting, and so is seeing wedding plans come to fruition with another Heaven Slime member. Like Sasuke, I was also disappointed to see the piano decoration that can be acquired in Dragon Quest X can't play music. Being able to play all the keys is probably asking too much, but it would be really cool if you could activate the piano and have it play certain Dragon Quest music tracks. There could even be special items you get in specific quests as well. They could do this all as a nice little setup.
Yeah, Phantasy Star Online 2 lets you get music discs from gacha pools, events, and other things, and play them in your guild headquarters. It even has guest tracks from Sonic, Outrun, and other Sega games. So yeah, Dragon Quest X should do that too.
Yeah, Yakuza Like a Dragon, the two games I've played of that series, you have little headquarters in a bar, and you can do the same thing where you can collect different musical tracks from other Sega games. So it's fun to have stuff like that. As with our last Alltrades episode, I learned a new word here too. This time, it was multi-poo. When I first read that, I was confused. Then I realized it referred to the breed of Miyako's dog. I had also forgotten that she had named it after her Dragon Quest X character, Goro. Apparently, a multi-poo is a Maltese and Poodle mix, and also quite the amusing name as well. I had such a big reaction when Miyako suggested going to Awaji Island as part of their honeymoon plan. Leading up to it, I figured that might be the location, but I was still extremely excited when she finally said it. She was like, Awaji Island! And I was like, yeah! I was like, sweet. It would be so cool to see them go there in the manga. If they somehow get to stay in the Dragon Quest suite of the hotel right next to it, that will be even more amazing. My wife and I stayed there with fellow Slime Time podcast host Liam and his son for one night, and it was totally worth it, though that is a luxury hotel that is quite expensive. I don't see how that would be in the couple's budget without a lot of help. They also definitely have their priorities straight to check out the Yuji Horii Dragon Quest statue in his hometown. That's also on Awaji Island, not too far away from Dragon Quest Island. It has a gift store near it with a great selection of Dragon Quest merchandise to buy as well. It's such an ambitious honeymoon though. Awaji Island and going overseas, though I guess the Awaji Island part is pretty economical. Where Sasuke lives is not that far away. They could even leave from Sasuke's apartment and be able to do Dragon Quest Island and the Yuji Horii Dragon Quest statue on the same day. It could be done with enough planning. I'm very interested to see where they decide to go for the overseas part of their honeymoon. Will they stick to Asia or maybe somewhere down in Southeast Asia, or will they even go to America? Lots of Japanese tourists like to go to Hawaii, for example.
I'd like to go to Hawaii. Anyway, this chapter has lots of talk and meeting a partner's parents. That can be nerve-wracking, though Satsuki doesn't seem as worried as you might expect. Fun fact about my wife's mother: she was my high school assistant principal. Education really runs in their family. As you mentioned, Pendy, the maid couple also discuss their honeymoon plans in the story. I can't help but wonder what their wedding night and honeymoon will be like. This is a couple that still hasn't kissed on the mouth yet. So what will happen when it's time to turn off the lights and sleep in the same bed together? I doubt the manga will deal with that, but they did have Miyako's friend acting sexy to Satsuki once, so you never know. A fun background detail of this chapter is that we get to see another picture that Satsuki and Miyako took at the theme park. It's from the Final Fantasy attraction. It shows them posing behind a pair of Moogles who seem to be tending to a chocobo as it hatches. I don't think we saw this particular photo before, but I like it.
No, I don't think we did either, and it was fun to see that as well. I really like that. Now that we are done with our reviews, I'll go ahead and talk about the Dragon Quest items I ordered recently. Since talking about them in our last episode, I've actually received them now in the mail.
Ooh, are they everything you hoped for and more?
Oh yeah, the little Zoma finger puppet is adorable. The Dragon Quest class featuring the Dragon Lord and other monsters from the game is spectacular, and the Dragon Quest IV PlayStation 1 guidebook has some amazing art in it. It even has a great fold-out map with some amazing artwork of some of the heroes from the game on the back of it.
Nice. What about the Brave Yoshihiko book?
Oh yeah, I got that too. It's a very interesting design. The book has this plastic sleeve that surrounds the whole book. It has a great picture of our 4 heroes and the Buddha in the background. I've never seen a book with a plastic sleeve quite like that.
Oh, I have 1 or 2 Japanese books with those sleeves. Is Hisa, Yoshihiko's sister, on the cover?
Surprisingly, she's not in the picture. I was a little disappointed in that. If they're going to show the side character, the Buddha, why not her as well?
Buddha's a little more prominent in the story than Hisa, but I'd still have liked for her to be there. What about inside the book?
Once you remove the plastic sleeve, on the cover and on the book's binding, in English, it says, "The Brave Yoshihiko and the Great Satan's Castle."
Satan? Oh yeah, that's the full Japanese title of the first season of the show.
Well, yeah, Satan. I guess maybe Demon King can also be translated that way? Or could it be a classic attempt at English from a non-native speaker that got the translation wrong? It happens all the time. In the show's opening credits, they clearly write it in English as Demon King, and that's how the fan translation handles it too. I don't know enough about Japanese to know either way.
Huh, so what's inside this apparently satanic book that you now have in your possession? I hope it's not a bunch of evil deviltry.
Maybe. I don't read Japanese, so who knows? In the beginning of the book, it has a lot of fun pictures of the characters, monsters, and special items with descriptions that show up throughout Season 1. It does appear to be a companion book to Season 1 like I thought, but it's mostly text after that, so I don't know everything that's in there. But that's okay. It's just fun to have as a collector's item.
That does sound great. And I guess until you learn Japanese, we'll be safe from your satanic curses. And with that, we wrap up this episode of Alltrades DQ Media Abbey. If you want to prepare for our next episode, be sure to watch Season 2, Episodes 6 and 7 of The Brave Yoshihiko, and read Chapters 51 to 53 of Rooming with the Gamer Gal. The Brave Yoshihiko is available with fan subs on the Internet Archive website, and Rooming with the Gamer Gal is available through the Manga Up app.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't get your hard-earned gold all moist when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, hanging wall sack, or treasure chest, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases, especially the upcoming Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake. Everybody?
Yeah, show us that love, folks. Speaking of which, we have a cool Slime Time t-shirt and an even cooler Alltrades DQ Media Abbey shirt, both designed by our resident artist, Dwayne. See the links for them in the show notes.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EastX Twitch. Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums and Discord, and the Dragon Questers and Slime Time Facebook groups, plus the new Dragon Questers Discord.
We'd like to thank everyone that made this podcast possible, including Woodus, the Dragon's Den, and the Ghost of Pendy's Past. That guy could really rattle a chain.
Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
We'll catch you later, everybody. Don't hate, appreciate.
Time to zoom on out of here.
風がそよいでジャスミンが香る雲が流れてクジラが泳ぐよしば
This is Gertrude for Slime Time, reminding you all that you must complete your adventure.